Welcome to another live stream, my friends. Well, guys, Bitcoin has actually seen a fairly nice bounce since our Friday carnage, but with emotions running at all-time highs, can we expect much further downside? Or after that massive liquidation event, are we actually reset and ready to push higher? Honestly, guys, I have mixed feelings about this, so I do want to be the voice of reason in the market, go over some possible scenarios for both sides of that, and basically go over how I'm planning to protect myself, as well as some opportunities I will be watching for moving forward. Starting off on the 4 hour here, you guys. Notice I currently have a potential scenario laid out. Basically, you can see that I have this fib pull here, that this range has not played out yet. I'll get into that in a second. But something that would happen here if we end up getting the same thing where we end up pushing to the highs of this range, followed by another big reaction, big rejection. Guys, I mean, that would really screw with people's mental well being, especially everything they've just been through. But even that nuke that we just saw on Friday, we literally had this exact same trade set up already, where we basically go back to the top of the range, where we go and retest that 1 to the 115 fib pocket rejection zone. Basically, we got it back here while we had this top range. And then even after that pullback, I was warning about it on this climb up. I was warning about this level, and we ended up seeing it again. So obviously, the one that we did just get was a lot more violent. It was bigger and much faster, but it was the exact same setup, and exactly why I laid it out on my Telegram channel as well as in my live streams last week, and explained exactly why I was shorting this move. I still have a chunk of that short open, not much of it. I just have, I think, about 10% of it running at this point. Because the whole massive range did play out very quickly, so I'd be silly to not be taking profits on that as we go. The real chaos, you guys, was in the altcoin market. I mean, we saw some coins just getting absolutely devastated on Friday. And guys, especially those people who use cross leverage, I feel for you guys. I personally would never use cross leverage, and I'm seeing a lot of horror stories that have come up. But basically, a lot of people ended up getting wrecked on Friday on that sell off, but especially those people who are using cross leverage. Guys, I want to be very clear about this one more time. I will never touch cross leverage. This week was a good reminder that no matter how safe you think your liquidations are, you think your stop losses are safe, and so on, that a stop loss is not necessarily worst case scenario. And when entering a trade setup, so basically I only use isolated leverage so that I know worst case my isolated amount of margin gets liquidated basically if the stop doesn't trigger, because we have a big liquidation event just like what we just had. So I never touch cross leverage, never will. And like I said, I've been hearing horror stories about that with people getting liquidated, even out of their spot positions that they thought were safe due to using cross leverage. Very sad for many. But this is the unfortunate reality that when people get greedy, toss caution out the window, keep everything together in one place, don't really consider the possibility that they could be wrong or how bad things could get. It's very unfortunate, but that was our big reminder on Friday. So guys, those of you who have been following along with my live streams and in my Telegram channel, I mean, you guys know I actually did end up calling out this short position that I ended up taking from about 125.2K. And basically my reasoning was that it's not even necessarily that I was extremely bearish, you guys. It was just the fact that where we were at for a big possible rejection zone. I was just looking at this as more of an opportunity to protect myself and protect my capital more than anything. So I was actually approaching it with a very level head, you guys. And it played out beautifully. So not only was I protected, but made massive profits on that push to the downside. So absolutely beautiful. And those of you guys who are interested in trading based on charts and you want to see more examples of my favorite trading strategies, some of my trade setup ideas, more examples, how I view market structure, pull Fibonacci's, and you just want more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor and scan that QR code on the screen or by clicking the link in the description down below. But yeah, guys, absolutely chaos right now. Like I said, I have mixed feelings on the market right now. I did post in my Telegram earlier this morning that we had the first sign of strength that I've seen since Friday, and that was the MDX Trendmaster indicator did print a higher buy signal on the 5-minute. So obviously, if you ended up taking this, you should be taking profits on the way, because this is way more volatile than it looks, you guys. The market is very dangerous right now, especially if you're using leverage. And yeah, basically on this, even from basically where our invalidation zone is down here, or even where I got this signal and basically took my long, even in that little bit there, that's already a 2% climb to the upside, which for Bitcoin, that's actually quite a bit, right? I mean, the price actually went up from where we got this little bounce here. The price actually went up over 3,000 US dollars, you guys. That looks like it's barely anything, but that's just how volatile it is right now. So that's another thing when you're looking at entering a trade right now, just because I see reasons for why we could be bearish and why we could be bullish. I'm going to go more into those reasons in a little bit here. But no matter how you're looking at things, when you're entering a position, make sure you understand how far your invalidation is. Especially with, factoring in how much leverage you're using and how much margin you're using. Just really understand how much money you could lose on your position if you're wrong, because again, it's a lot more dangerous than it looks. These ranges are very large compared to how they would typically look like this. So just a big warning that I want to throw out there for you guys there. As far as what's next for Bitcoin, you guys, as I said, I have mixed feelings about that. One big reason for that is on a macro time frame here, just looking at the 4-hour, we're obviously setting lower lows. So even at this point, if we get a climb back up to the upside, like I said, we could have the exact same, basically the exact same setup play out again if we end up getting another push towards the highs, because since we ended up setting a new low, that means that I have a new Fibonacci pull here. And once again, if I'm looking for that swing fail zone between the 1 and the 115 fib, basically this bearish scenario isn't invalidated unless we can break above 130,000. So I'm not saying that we have to go up here and even test those levels. And I'm not saying that we can't break it. Just as it stands, just like what I was warning about last time on the way to the upside, it's not so much that I was bearish on this whole climb, nothing like that. You guys know I had a beautiful long from 108.9K. But I was warning the whole way up that we have resistance to watch for between basically 125 and 127K. And that's exactly where we got our rejection. And the same thing right now would be if we have basically resistance from 126 to 130K. Yeah, it's a pretty big range, but as far as the fib pull goes, like I said, things are very volatile right now. Our ranges are very large. So that's basically where that potential rejection could be right now. Another thing, if I bring up the MDX liquidations indicator, notice that we are starting to build some liquidity to the upside here. There's not really a heck of a lot below us anymore at this point, but all the high leverage liquidations are starting to form above us, basically. And again, lining up with that swing fail zone. So it absolutely makes sense that the market makers could push the price back up, really fake everybody out again, because everybody, if we start getting towards all-time highs again, people generally don't learn their lessons too well when it comes to looking at charts, because the emotional toll that it takes is just incredible, you guys. It's very hard to keep our emotions intact. Everyone knows you're supposed to buy low, sell high, but at the time, everybody likes to FOMO long into resistance, just like we just saw, and everybody gets wrecked. And that's kind of what I'm expecting again if we end up climbing a little bit higher. Of course, if we end up breaking the 4-year cycle, and we end up just staircasing higher through resistance, I am here for it, you guys. I would absolutely love to see it. But as it stands right now, I've been talking about this as a bit of a warning as well. You know, a lot of people are saying that this move was unpredictable. You guys who have been in my live streams and in my Telegram know that I've been very vocal for the last week or two, that there's a lot of things lining up from a structure, like just straight up price action point of view, as well as timing. We are right around that 152-week time. I'm going to call it a limit. It's not a limit because this does not have to play out again. Just the last couple of crypto cycles from bear market low to bull market high, it was exactly 152 weeks to play out. And that's right where we are right now. And that's where we're getting some serious macro structure breaks. So that's where I just have some very big concerns with the market right now, you guys. Another thing I want to mention is I know a lot of people are comparing what just happened to our COVID crash. And I part of me agrees, right? We got a very big very fast, brutal sell-off, just like when we had the COVID panic. So yes, I can totally understand that. And that's one reason why I think, you know what, now that I'm seeing a lot of sentiment has flipped bearish on social media, a lot of people who lost everything in a matter of minutes. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. And that's exactly a lot of people saying that, well, I don't see how the market could go higher. Everybody's broke. Nobody can buy anything. That's exactly how everybody felt when we got our COVID dump. Everyone thought, well, nobody even knows if they're going to have jobs. Nobody knows anything. Basically, there was a lot of uncertainty. So how could this go up? And that's where we started our parabolic run. So I don't know if this is going to be the same thing. It's actually a little different, you guys, because what happened on Friday, although yes, Bitcoin did see a serious sell-off, it wasn't a bear market size sell-off. Not saying that it couldn't start one, but what did we end up going from top to bottom? Even though it was very aggressive, it was only about 20%. I mean, I toss that out there lightly. 20% is huge, but just compared to let's say some coins, let's say Crow. What did Crow from where it topped out just a few weeks ago? Basically a few weeks ago, we see that the price ended up dropping 80%. Something like Sui, I mean, it dropped 85% within minutes or a few hours or whatever it was. There's a lot of altcoins that just got absolutely hammered, and they had full-on bear markets in a matter of minutes. And, this time with Bitcoin, we never really saw that. So at this point, it's hard to say. I think it's absolutely possible that Bitcoin still enters a bear market from here. But I don't know. It's really hard to say. Like I said, I have mixed feelings about it right now. I do see reasons why that big liquidation event could be a big reset. It reset all of the leverage traders and everything. And then, I mean, maximum pain, in my opinion, at least, would be that, people lost everything and then they have to watch their assets go to the moon, and they lost it because of a cross leverage liquidation or something like that. I mean, that is absolutely devastating. And in my opinion, maximum pain there. So that theory does check out. It's just that this time was our final shakeout more so in the altcoin market, whereas rather when we had our COVID shakeout, it was Bitcoin. It was basically everything, right? So might be a little bit different there. Bitcoin has come nowhere near those macro liquidation levels like it has in the past when we got those big capitulation events. So it's just a little bit different. And that's why it's really hard to say what's happening right now. Bitcoin dominance, this is one thing why I think, maybe altcoins can recover still. So I don't want to sound too bearish yet. Actually, before I get into altcoins, sorry, I want to bring up on Bitcoin one more. The major concern that I have with this little bounce that we're getting is retail. And I was warning about this before the dump happened. I was warning that longs were starting to come into the market. Retail was starting to long this little dip that we had, but we were still at macro resistance. Retail longs were starting to come in heavily. And I said, as long as that starts climbing, that's going to be fuel for the fire, and that will push the price significantly lower. And right now we even ended up getting a cross from that. And we still see retail trying to long this dip with whatever funds they have left. So that is something to pay attention to, that, if retail longs continue to climb, generally speaking, when retail is longing, we see the price going down, just like when we see retail shorts coming in heavily. You can see that, right here, this red line started climbing. That's the retail shorts. And as we climbed, we saw the price climbing. So retail was wrong, just like when retail long started, that's when we started dropping, right? So that's on the daily. I want to bring it up on the 1 hour as well, because we can see here that, well, we got a big cross. Where can I find vertical line? Where did we end up getting our cross? Was right about there. And you can see that we absolutely continued pushing to the downside there as retail longs started building. Everyone was trying to catch that knife on the way to the downside, right? And that just gave us extra fuel for the fire and just pushed us further to the downside. So that is something that I'm going to have my eye on for the next little bit. But it's nice to see that we're getting this bounce, right? Like I said, the fact that the MDX Trendmaster started printing an uptrend here, I love to see that. I love to see that we did get a big aggressive bounce. Another thing that I was warning about when we were at the top of this range, I said we had a bunch of liquidity forming below us, right? Everyone's saying that there was nothing, nothing out there that could tell us that this dump was going to have. Literally the day or two before this happened, I was talking about this liquidity zone down at around 107K. And although I expected it to take more like a month to get down there and not a matter of a few hours or one day, it still happened. The market makers still went and grabbed that liquidity, just like we've done on these other moves, right? We basically started forming liquidity to the upside. We climbed. We started forming a bunch of liquidations below us. We end up going down. We start forming a bunch of liquidations above us. The market maker wants to grab that. We start creating a bunch below us. Market maker wants to grab that. And right now, although there's not much, we're starting to see it build to the upside, right? So just again, another reason why the market makers may want to give that one final push to the upside before starting in a bear market. Or if retail's absolutely wrecked and they have PTSD from this day and they start trying to short aggressively, that would be the fuel, the rocket fuel we need to smash through that resistance. So we're going to have to see. One reason why I think that not all hope is lost for the altcoins at this point, for those willing to buy dips and that kind of thing. So I did point this out on a recent stream, I think about a week ago, but I had mentioned that I had this Stuber fib, and basically the Bitcoin dominance bounced basically right off my 786 there. And generally speaking, when Bitcoin dominance is climbing, it's because the market is getting spooked. They're scared of the higher risk assets like altcoins and that sort of thing. And generally speaking, that means you're going to see typically more bearish price action. So the fact that we got this little bit of a bounce off the Bitcoin dominance, and we did, even though this isn't a typical pair that you trade or whatever, notice that it's still respecting my Stuber fib strategy. We still ended up getting right to that 214 fib target with an instant rejection. So if this is where at this point Bitcoin dominance continues dumping like this, like it obviously hit its target, and since it's been a very even more aggressive push to the downside here, that could be a sign of strength with altcoins that people may be willing to be buying altcoins, I guess, going into higher risk assets again. So if this can continue dumping, we got that reaction rally off support there. If this can continue dumping, I think that'll be a great sign for the altcoins, but we're obviously going to have to see how that plays out. Ethereum, guys, I was warning on a live stream while we were right along my 786. I unfortunately never shorted this myself. I only shorted Bitcoin, but I was warning about resistance and to be careful when, maybe holding back on longing right into resistance. Same thing with Solana. We were trading right at my 214 fib target, and I started warning about it that, hey, we might see a little bit of a reaction from this because the target was reached. And we printed actually a very nasty signal here. The MDX Trendmaster actually flipped from printing higher buy signals, higher sell signals, to we got a lower sell signal. And that matched up with all the bearish price action, right? There was this warning on the indicator that things were going to take, at least that it was possible that we were going to take a shift in trend, basically. So at this point, there is still resistance up ahead. No matter how you look at it, everything has a bunch of resistance right now. So times are a little bit scary right now. We have to really see what the market does when it opens, right? I mean, it's the weekend right now, so it hasn't been going too crazy. I'm very curious to see what Monday's open looks like. But yeah, we're going to have to see what this chart looks like basically tomorrow. I mean, not just this chart, but all our charts basically. Bitcoin, although with the MDX Trendmaster on the 5-minute, we do have these higher trending signals right now. Don't forget that even when I was streaming on Friday evening, Friday afternoon for me, but I was warning that even though we got this nice aggressive bounce, guys, we still to this minute have not broke our micro lower high on this trend, right? If this was our low, we got this little bounce here, and then we set a lower low. That means between our low and our lower low, this is our confirmed lower high, right around 115K. And we're getting up to that level right now for a retest, but we haven't broke it yet. So just something to be a little bit cautious of. We do have some potential resistance. If I wanted to look at this, I could pull a fib from there to where we are right now, basically, where we bottomed. And that resistance basically gets invalidated above 117K. So just, it's not that we need to get rejected at this level. Just understand that, we are starting to, even though after this nice little bounce, we are starting to approach some resistance levels on several different assets, right? Bitcoin getting up to that micro resistance, things like Solana starting to get towards indicator resistance and all that sort of good stuff. Another one I had mentioned in previous streams, you guys, was Troll. I had mentioned that we did break out of this falling wedge. I was looking to add to my position if we got a retest of that falling wedge, and that actually came right at my 115 fib. So I had a little bit of confluence there. So I did add to my spot position with Troll. So even though I'm looking at things from a little bit of a bearish perspective recently, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to invest in things and still buy some blood as we have it, just in case that, like I said, if this is the final shakeout and we do go parabolic, I do want to have some of those spot positions on some altcoins that I think will do well and that sort of thing. So guys, if you do appreciate my level-headed approach, I know emotions have been crazy on edge lately. Emotions are at all-time highs, as Bitcoin was. And I mean, if you appreciate these level-headed approaches, these, just looking at the charts for what they are and just trying to be the voice of reason in the market, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this new channel if you haven't yet. Your likes go a long way at this point because it obviously helps the algos when it's such a new channel like this. So thank you so much for being here with me as well, you guys. I see a lot of familiar faces. And that just goes to show that you guys appreciate what I have to say here. And I appreciate you guys being here with me. I love talking through my emotions because doing these streams, honestly, it helps me keep a level head, right? How many people do you know actually called this move ahead of time? And even though, like I said, I wasn't even bearish, I just took the setup for what it was very rationally to protect myself. And it played out perfectly. I think I've only seen maybe 3 people who are kind of looking at things the same. So if you do appreciate that as well, do me a favor, hit that like button and let me know, you guys, if these streams helped protect you from what we just experienced the other day. I would love to hear something about that because, yeah, for those of you who have been in my live streams and in my Telegram channel, you should have been ready for this move on Bitcoin, even though it didn't necessarily seem probable at the time. It was on our radar as a very realistic possibility and managed to profit big on that one. So love to see it. X is a kill switch. Yeah, no kidding. X, everybody is very down on themselves right now on X, it feels like. And that's just one of those things, a lot of people saying, I don't see how we can end up pushing higher. Everybody got wiped out. That's exactly what's leading me to think that, everyone on X was acting like I was insane for wanting to short resistance. And now they're all acting like, well, all hope is lost. So, those same people will most likely start getting excited and get FOMO if we get up to resistance again. And we're going to see the same thing happen. Possibly, right? Obviously doesn't have to, but it's there as a possibility. Habu thought that for sure we would see a 10 to 15% drop in the market tomorrow. We're going to have to see, right? There's going to be a crazy CME gap, however the market ends up opening. I'm sure there's going to be a big gap that's going to fill eventually. The S&P, I know it broke very large structure as well. Cross leverage, Habu, just to explain. So isolated leverage, basically the amount of margin you put on your trade, that's worst case scenario. That's what you're going to lose. Your margin amount in your position is isolated there. Whereas with cross leverage, if let's say your stop loss gets skipped or you don't have a stop loss, it can basically start digging into, oh, you have positions open over here. It can start grabbing into other positions. It can even grab into your spot account. It can start grabbing, oh, well, you've got some Bitcoin in there, so we're not going to liquidate you. We're going to throw your Bitcoin in on this trade now too, and then liquidate that as well as possible. So that's why I don't like cross leverage, because even though it can seem like, oh, my liquidation level is way too far, or my stop loss will protect me and all those kinds of things, it just doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes there's those freak things where there's low volume or some sort of a cascading liquidation event, just like we saw. And, there's always that little bit of, there's always a little percent chance that there is some much larger risk at stake, right? So like same with, I would never keep all of my assets on a single exchange or a single wallet. I like to have things across several different places. A guy I worked with did anime contracts for Disney, told me he had friends that got wiped out in the 87 crash. Yeah, exactly. Like some people just end up getting liquidated in those big events, those big crashes, they happen, right? Habu, Dan, Danrab, Chevy, Chunga, Hadar, Mohammedi. Yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here with me. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing names. How do I read the liquidation indicator? So basically all these gold bars, I actually have it set up so it's only the high leverage stuff. I am basically only looking for 50 to 100x liquidation levels. So just where the most aggressive liquidations are, because it's easiest for the market makers to grab those. But yeah, basically these gold bars, brown bars, yellow bars, whatever you want to call them, that's where there's just liquidation pockets basically. And a lot of the times, not that you have to go there, but typically the market makers love to grab liquidity when it's sitting somewhere, right? So just more so looking at it as, hey, is it a possibility? In this case, hey, it's possible we end up eventually dropping to 107K because we have a bunch of liquidity there. Boom, next day grabbed it. Not expected, but it was possible. Because again, those of us who have been in crypto for more than this market cycle, those of us who have been around for a couple, understand that crypto can do anything. Anything is possible. And if this is your first cycle, unfortunately, this might be one of those events that that's one of those wake up calls where no matter what people are saying, those people with the large audiences and stuff like that, no matter what they're saying, always just be ready to protect yourself, right? Be ready for anything, because if you've been in crypto for more than 5 years, you know that anything is possible. And there's always some sort of crazy liquidation slippage event that wrecks a bunch of people. We see it every single cycle. I am just about wrapping up. I'll take a look at just a couple of things that were just requested. Hive, Bitcoin miner. I have looked at this one in the past. I will take a look at this. Hive Digital Technologies. That's the one I believe, correct? I mean, this, if I'm looking at the right Hive here, still looks good on the 4 hour, in my opinion. The fact that we have this bit of support, basically, right? I would actually be looking at this as a bit of an order block, because basically, where's the last place that the bears ended up pushing before going, before pushing higher? That was our little block down here, this little red block. I'm counting the wicks and everything, so I made my big green box here. But basically, as long as the price can hold that, then we're holding our demand zone, basically. And things don't look so bad. If, however, we end up losing this level, then it turns into a potential breaker block where we could end up respecting that old support as new resistance, basically. But so far, doesn't look so bad. Trendmaster as well. If we do push lower, at least we do have support that's trying to climb towards the price right now. So a decent little trend there, at least on the 4 hour. Do I think it's a good chance to buy some good altcoins? I personally do. Just again, please be careful with that. Don't throw in way more than you can afford to lose. And again, be careful if you're thinking leverage, for example. Like most of the altcoin stuff that I'm doing right now until the market kind of picks a direction, I'm more so looking at spot buying dips that I'm comfortable buying, with some of the profits that I made from my shorts there. So I don't mind spot buying a little bit on the way down, but I'm still open to the possibility that we could be in a bear market, right? Like I said, I was willing to buy the dip on Troll, for example, but I understand that it's not immune to anything. Like if the market goes full free fall, I'd expect all of my altcoins would do the same. So just be careful. Basically, if you're uncomfortable with your bags potentially going to zero, then unfortunately you might be over leveraged or just overexposed, right? Just always have a backup plan, basically. Red Panda, happy for once, stress-free, love to hear it. Long from 110.4K, took some profit, perfect, and short from 124K, nice. So you nailed the short as well. Isn't that good? Isn't that a good feeling when you can get into a hedge like that? When you, for example, you saw I was bearish at those levels, you took the short at 124K, and now as we get that big drop, now you're in a bit of a long position as well. And from here, the market can go whichever way, right? As long as you're paying yourself along the way, updating your stops and that sort of thing. It's very stress-free, whereas the majority of the market is in total panic right now because nobody knows for sure what's going to happen. So many people's emotions are completely rattled right now. And that's exactly why I wanted to get into that position. And I even said on the stream when I was talking about taking that short, I said, I'm very comfortable taking that and I'll be able to sleep better at night knowing that I have some short exposure as we're trading into resistance, basically. So I love to hear it, man. That's so awesome to hear. Crypto Jacker, I've ignored the wick on my new fib pull. Is that okay in your opinion? So my fib pull is from the next candle body after the Darth Vader lightsaber, basically. Are you looking for a bullish one or a bearish one? I personally always include wicks. So if you want to back test your own set of fibs, for example, how you want to pull them like that, perhaps. But just the way I pull it, I always go for wicks. And the reason why I still have a bearish fib pull right here is just because we haven't broke that 115K yet, right? If we do break that, and we barely have to go higher to break that, by the way. If we do, for one, I'm not saying we would go straight to the upside because at that point we could just be breaking resistance and doing some sort of a retest. But at least if we break that level, then I could have a Stuber fib. But since we haven't broke this red level yet, I need something like this to form. And then I could pull a fib basically like this and look for a bullish Stuber fib of some kind so that if we do retest support, at least there's potential for a trade setup on something like that. But yeah, I always include wicks. My thoughts on that are basically if the price has gone there before, it can do it again. And therefore, I want all of that price action in the range that I'm looking at, basically. Didn't have any shorts open, but got out of my longs before the dump because you helped me to think about the resistance. Thanks, brother. Man, Swampy, that's awesome to hear. Thank you for that testimony because I love to hear that you guys are picking up on some of the analysis I'm throwing down there. Your Telegram is priceless. Thanks so much. Yeah, those of you guys who want to get involved, you want to be in my Telegram. Again, just looking at market structure for what it is, trying to keep a very level head about things, just looking at structure for what it is. You want to see more examples of how I pull my fibs, how I look at market structure. So my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the market. Scan that QR code on the screen or click the link in the description down below. But with that, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So thank you so much for being here with me once again. I may be around for a stream tomorrow as well. We will see on that. I probably will. But yeah, I just want to see how the market opens tomorrow, how the price reacts, right? We're just getting to resistance now. So we have to see if we actually break this, then we can start looking for pullbacks. But as of like now, since my Friday stream, really structure hasn't changed. We've got a few, we bounced a little bit more and whatnot, but we haven't really broke any crazy structure or anything. So not a lot has actually changed yet since Friday. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. So once again, guys, if you did appreciate this live stream, do me a favor, hit that like button. Goes a long way for the new channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. Peace out.